Lily Morgan had always been a girl of sunshine and soft melodies. She played piano at the chapel every Sunday, her fingers dancing over keys like petals in the wind. Ethan Caldwell, son of the village carpenter, would always sit in the front row, never for God but for her. Their love bloomed in the quiet ways that matter most. Sharing an umbrella during spring storms, passing notes beneath pews, stolen kisses behind the old well where ivy curled and the world forgot to watch. He gave her a locket once, small and silver, with a daisy pressed inside. "You're my only spring," he'd said. They planned everything: a cottage near the lake, a dog named Chestnut, 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl. Lily painted the nursery long before they wed, a soft pastel yellow. Then, on a cool gray morning, preparations for the grandest wedding the villagers had ever seen were in full bloom. Scarlet ribbons fluttered in the breeze. Drums echoed through the trees. Guests whispered in excitement about the match made in heaven. Ethan, the handsome, ambitious young man, and Lily, the sweet, quiet girl whose eyes sparkled like the river in spring. But as the sun reached its zenith, panic rippled across the crowd. The groom had vanished. No note, no trace, no goodbye. Lily waited in her white dress, her veil clinging to her trembling hands as hours turned to dusk. By nightfall, the joy had turned to silence, and whispers of curses, betrayal, and bad omens spread like wildfire. By morning, Lily was gone too. She was last seen near the edge of the forest, barefoot, her wedding dress trailing behind her like a torn ghost. No one saw her again, or so they thought. 1 year later, the lanterns were red again. Villagers whispered as the procession passed. The same house, the same groom, a different bride. Ethan had returned as suddenly and silently as he had left. No one knew where he'd been, and no one dared ask. His face was pale, his eyes older, but he spoke little of the past, only of the future, with Maya, the lively new girl he had met in the city. "I've moved on," he told those who questioned. "The past is buried." But not everyone was convinced. Old Madam K, who lived closest to the forest's edge, spat on the ground when he walked by. Some debts aren't forgiven, some brides don't forget. And though Ethan laughed off the warning, his fingers twitched when he passed the tree where Lily used to wait for him after school. He never looked up at her old window, but the wedding happened, and the feast was lavish, and the night came with incense smoke curling like whispers in the air. The bridal chamber was soaked in the scent of wilting roses. Maya twirled before the mirror in her silk gown, her cheeks glowing with the warmth of wine and excitement. "It's perfect," she whispered, gazing at the bed surrounded by candles and fresh petals. "Everything is perfect." Ethan stood behind her, unmoving. Something tugged at him. A cold wind that didn't belong in the closed room. He shut the window hastily, brushing off the chill as nerves. But as he kissed Maya's shoulder, his eyes drifted toward the mirror. For a second, he thought he saw a second reflection. Another bride, pale, still, watching. He blinked. Nothing. Maya giggled, pulling him to the bed. But his mind stayed elsewhere. He couldn't shake the image. Her face, Lily's face. They made love in flickering candlelight, but Ethan felt distant, like he was drifting between 2 realities. At one point, Maya whispered his name, but it sounded like Lily's voice. He froze, hands trembling. Later, after Maya had drifted into sleep, Ethan sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the mirror. The surface looked darker now, as if something behind the glass watched him. A shape flickered there, only when he wasn't looking directly at it. It stayed still when he faced it, but in the corner of his vision, it twitched, shifted, loomed closer. He grabbed a towel and threw it over the mirror, but the whisper still came. "You promised." Sometime past midnight, Ethan awoke to the faint sound of crying. Maya lay asleep, her arm draped over him, but the sound wasn't hers. Software, mournful, female. It was coming from the hallway. Ethan rose, breath tight, and stepped into the corridor. The hallway was flooded with flower petals, but they were wrong. Not the roses from earlier, but blackened, shriveled things, damp with decay. And then, halfway down the hall, he saw her, Lily, in a wedding dress, black as coal, veiled in shadow, her skin gray, her lips cracked, her eyes, those eyes, were filled with something between agony and rage. "You promised," she said, her voice layered with the echo of the grave. "You promised you'd marry me." Ethan stumbled back, heart clawing at his ribs. He turned, and the hallway was empty. No petals, no bride, no sound. He tried to convince himself it was a dream, a hallucination. But when he returned to the bedroom, Maya was no longer asleep. She sat bolt upright, wide-eyed, muttering to herself in a strange voice. "She's in the walls. She's still waiting." Ethan grabbed her shoulders, trying to wake her, but her eyes were rolled back. Then, just as suddenly, she collapsed in his arms, fast asleep again, like nothing had happened. But Ethan didn't sleep again that night. The next day, Ethan searched frantically through old drawers, through letters, journals, anything that reminded him of Lily. Her face haunted every moment. He found her diary hidden in the floorboards of the old storage room. The last entry, "He said we'd be together, even if he ran, even if I died waiting. I will wait in my dress forever until his vow is kept." Tears burned his eyes. He hadn't run because he didn't love her. He ran because he was afraid of the voices he'd heard in the woods, afraid of the black shadow that had whispered to him the night before their wedding. "If you marry her, she dies." He thought leaving would save her, but it had doomed her instead. He wandered back to the bedroom and saw the towel he had thrown over the mirror was now on the floor. The mirror was clean, untouched. Except for one thing. In the corner, faintly etched like a crack in the glass, was a message. "The vow is broken. I remain." He stepped back, heart thudding. Behind him, Maya spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. "Will you finally dance with me, Ethan?" Ethan couldn't breathe. Maya stood before him, no longer herself. Her voice trembled with grief and fury, speaking with Lily's cadence. "You left me alone, in the rain, in that dress. Do you remember, Ethan, how you whispered that I was your forever?" Ethan stammered. "I thought I was protecting you. The voices, they said you'd die if we married." Her scream split the air. The mirror shattered, and behind the shards was not a wall, but another room. Another night, flickering candlelight. Lily alone in her wedding dress, pacing, waiting. Rain lashed against the window. She waited until morning, until days passed, and then she walked into the woods. Ethan collapsed, his chest heaved. The vision had forced itself into his mind, like a memory that wasn't his. He had seen what she saw. Lily's body drenched, trembling, the dress now muddy and torn, her hands raw from clutching the rose bouquet, now wilted into black mush. The villagers whispered behind curtains. Her mother wept and refused to eat, but Lily refused to remove the dress. For days, then weeks, and finally, one night, she walked out in silence and vanished. The village priest still remembered Lily. Sweet girl, heart too kind. She waited for him, by the graveyard, he murmured when Ethan visited. She used to sit near the old chapel right under the tree where the dead don't sleep easy. Ethan knelt there now, beneath the gnarled branches. The earth looked disturbed. He began to dig, not with tools, with his bare hands. The soil turned dark and wet. Then came the scent, sweet rot. His fingers brushed fabric satin black, wrapping something dry and brittle. He uncovered her bones, and in her hand, a second wedding ring, identical to the one he now wore. The ghost had married him, in death. Behind him, wind rushed through the trees. You left me there, Ethan, came her voice. I died in that dress. I drowned in my sorrow. Now it's your turn. He turned, and she was there, full-bodied, pale, lips blue, smile broken, hair crawling with centipedes. Her eyes were bottomless voids. He screamed, but no one in the village heard him. Ethan awoke in his old room, the one he shared with Lily when they were younger. Dust veiled the furniture and vines crept through the cracks in the walls. The mirror above the dresser was covered with a thick black cloth. He turned to leave, but the door was gone. In its place, an altar. A bridal veil soaked in dried blood rested atop a cracked porcelain doll. Candles lit themselves. The flames were black. Voices whispered from the corners. She waited. She bled. You wed another. Lily's voice cut through. You promised. You lied. Now lie with me. The walls began to pulse. The ceiling wept blood. Ethan covered his ears, but the screaming was inside him. Maya's scream, Lily's scream, his own. He was trapped. The floorboards cracked beneath his feet as he staggered toward the veil. He picked it up. It reeked of earth and decay. Music began to play, an old waltz they used to dance to. The room transformed into their wedding hall, but everyone attending wore black. No eyes, no mouths, just pale skin and tears of ash. At the altar stood Lily, alive, beautiful, dead. Dance with me, Ethan, just one last time. He obeyed. Her hands were ice. Her smile was carved with sorrow. Each step he took felt like sinking into the ground. Around them the dancers began to rot. Dresses fell apart, flesh melted, eyes burst, the walls crumbled and water poured in. Lily whispered, "This is how I died, waiting, cold, forgotten, and you forgot me." He fell to his knees. "I didn't forget. I broke to protect you. I was weak. I was a coward." She reached down, touching his face. Then die remembering. Ethan awoke, coughing mud from his lungs. He lay in the chapel, drenched in cold water. The villagers had found him by the disturbed grave, babbling, clutching a black veil. They called it madness. He called it truth. Maya left him. He could no longer sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he returned to that waltz, to Lily's cold embrace. He began writing letters to her. He began preparing a room, candles, a mirror, a dress mannequin with the black veil. The villagers avoided his house. They heard music at night. They saw shadowy figures in the windows, and Ethan, in his tuxedo, waiting by the door, waiting for his bride. 1 year later, on the exact day of the original wedding, Ethan disappeared. His home was found covered in ash. The furniture was melted. The only intact item, a charred mannequin in a wedding dress, a ring on its finger. In the mirror, scorched into the glass, a message. He kept his promise. And beneath it, 2 sets of footprints leading into the woods. One large, one bare. They were never seen again. But some nights, villagers hear a waltz drifting through the forest. And if you follow it, you might see them. The bride in black and the groom who finally came home.